What's going on YouTube? Today's video is going to be a little more lighthearted. I wanted to kind of not quite vent, but well, you'll see. But just kind of talk about a bunch of different things that you may not realize occur, when you're running a Pokemon business, and why it's turned me into a neurotic logistics goblin. So a lot of people think that if you're running a Pokemon business, you're ripping packs, you're selling cards, and yes, that's something that you do. Uh, but a large part of it is just managing a series of increasingly weird timing problems, right? And you're dealing with tracking, logistics, dashboards, and operational crises that pop up all the time, right? So one of the things that really kind of starts building the neuroticism is a lot of messages are going to come in as you start growing, and people are asking you, "Do you sell legitimate product?" As if they really expect someone that says, "Oh, you know what? Hey, you got me, bro. It's fake. Good on you. You got me." Right? Like you're gonna get those all the time. You just gotta look at it and you're like, really? Like you don't build up this big and have this many reviews if you're selling fake product. But they ask, and I would say 90% of them, even after you tell them yes, it's all legitimate, still don't buy anyway. So it's like, well, what was the point? So you get those, you gotta answer them, you gotta deal with it, but it's just one of those things where again, kind of drives you a little nuts. Um, the other one is you get people that'll buy a box or two boxes or whatever, TPs, a booster bundle, whatever, and then they'll hit you up and be like, do you reseal product? Because I didn't get any hits in my box." It's like, bro, come on, right? Especially like on prismatic, right? It's not called traumatic prismatic for nothing, right? You're not guaranteed to hit on every box, well, unless you're buying Japanese. But for English, you're not guaranteed to get one. So it's one of those things where it's like, come on, guys, and you're trying to explain to them, um, the way that hits can be distributed within a box and nothing. Just because you open one box and didn't get a hit doesn't magically increase your chances of getting hit on the next box, right? Like the 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 pull rates aren't related from one box to another. So you're gonna deal with those. You're just like, oh my god, because you gotta be professional, but you got all these messages coming in every now and then. It's kind of again makes you a little crazy. You get a lot of requests for people asking for discounts, and it's like, bro, I'm fighting for my life right now in these booster boxes or these booster bundles or whatever it is, and you want like a discount on top of these? Like, I can't. Like, I'm already paying this much for them. To get these collections, and then you're trying to just nuke the margin on it. As for a discount for what? To buy one box? So again, it just kind of drives you nuts a little bit. Um, the other thing that kind of drives you crazy is as you start growing, right, and your social media presence gets bigger, and you're running more ads, on Facebook and whatnot, and making more posts, you're gonna get the people that come in and want to be haters, or they want to be trolling you or whatever. And you get, oh, you're a scalper, and this, that, and the other. You have to deal with it, right? Um, it's very public facing, so you want to just like scream sometimes, but you can't, right? So, you know, some people just choose to hide the comment. I a lot of times will try to do some education about it because you're kind of walking a fine line, right? Being a creator and a store owner. Um, so you want to defend yourself, you want to defend your product, you want to defend your brand, but at the same time, you need to make sure you're not coming off as hostile or too defensive because the public facing is seeing everything, right? Um, and then when you're talking, you're trying to educate people about, the sourcing issues and how distribution works, right? You don't want to sound bitter or you don't want to sound like a shill. You have to be careful not to expose suppliers and distributors publicly. So you kind of walk in this fine line of how you go about doing that, not pissing anybody off, but still making good content that isn't just beating around the bushes with everything, right? Um, and then again, all along those same lines, you're running ads, so you're going to be checking your dashboards constantly, Meta and Google, right? Seeing, okay, what's my return on ad spend looking like? How much did it spend today? How many clicks did it get? Why did the CPC jump up so much? Why did I get, as many conversions as I was expecting on that? Is it just some conversion lag? Um, did I increase the budget and we're exploring, trash traffic, what happened, what collapsed, or right, or something to do good. You're like, hey, well, what did I do? How do I repeat that? Was this a one-off? So again, that kind of drives you a little nuts because every day you're spending money on these ads, and then you're looking, okay, what did it get me, or why didn't it get me something, right? The next thing is because I deal with a lot of foreign cards, right, Japanese and now Korean. It's not just a matter of, oh, okay, I'm running low on stock, let me go get some more, right? You're looking at what their prices is, and you're looking, okay, what's the current exchange rate of the yen or the won, right? What are the current tariffs looking like? Well, especially the last few months, tariffs every day. It's it's okay, it's this, or maybe it's this, or it's being threatened to be increased to this, or the court said no, it has to stop. It's all over the place right now, right? So you're trying to figure out, okay, shipping and handling, because FedEx, it's like, okay, we're increasing handling rates as of this date or whatever it is. You're trying to figure all that and figure out, okay, well, it cost me this much to buy it from my supplier. This is actually how much it's going to cost once it lands here in the U.S., right? So you kind of stop thinking about product and prices and start thinking about landed costs. But then you got to start looking at, okay, well, this is how much it costs when it lands. What can I actually sell it for? What is the market going to bear? And especially for foreign language cards, right? It could be like middle of the night, and I'm checking some Japanese news website, relying on Google Translate to translate this thing for me to try to figure out, you know, did some reprint rumor just completely nuke my margins and make me look like a complete fool, right? I mean, and this is one of those things where that's this part of the business, right? Especially when you're dealing with foreign cards. But again, it kind of just makes you a little crazy. So at some point, it kind of makes like buying Pokemon cards feel like commodity trading. Lots of late night detective Google work. So that's kind of what builds the neuroticism, right? This kind of transforms me and made me turn into a logistics goblin, right? So you're kind of operating across multiple time zones here. So I have a supplier in Japan. I have suppliers in Korea. And then one of my main reps for my distribution is out in Wisconsin, right? So you're operating on multiple time zones here as you're dealing with different people, right? So, like right now, it's currently 1 o'clock in the morning when I'm making this video. Why am I still up right now? Well, I just had to do a reorder of some Japanese product, and it's daytime in Japan. So, this is the time to kind of get with him. So yeah, it's kind of just got me thinking, oh God, I'm kind of crazy right now. Like, why am I doing this? And that kind of helped lead me to decide this would probably be a good video to do, kind of get some of that frustration and venting out. But yeah, you're going to be, at some point, your business is running like on 4 different time zones at the same time. So the other thing is, every Monday morning at approximately 4:30, right? So in a few hours, well, it's Memorial Day, so it's not going to be today, tomorrow, but normally at 4:30 in the morning, that's when I get an email from my rep weekly, and that shows my allocations for that week, right? So it's like, you know, 4:30 in the morning, and brain immediately goes into logistics mode, looking at that email, looking at everything, and seeing, okay, what got allocated, if anything, and how much did I get allocated, and all that kind of thing, right? Going along those same lines, trying to see what you got in the beginning of the week, at the end of the week, right? If you're trying to get stuff in before you hit the weekend and have to try to get through the weekends, if you haven't got your stuff yet, because I'm close to one of the main warehouses in Fresno, if my stuff ships by a certain time, I can have it the next day, right? But the problem is, though, if something doesn't get released in time, I don't get my order in, get with my rep so he's able to release it to the warehouse, and hopefully they can pack it up and fulfill it quick enough. That doesn't happen, right? Now, because he's in Wisconsin, he's 3 hours ahead of me, right? So by the time he's leaving, it's usually like what, 2, in the afternoon, probably kind of be the cutoff, my time. If I don't get with him before that, by the time he hit like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it's like DEF CON 3 for me if I haven't got my stuff rolling, right? So again, it's kind of like turns me into a little goblin here because I'm operating by the time my day's half over, his is done, right? And then by the time I wake up, most of his day's already done, so I have to start getting going, right? Um, there's a lot of warehouse timing that I have to worry about, right? And you kind of start watching, you're tracking all your shipments and your invoices and all these updates, like constantly checking email, constantly checking UPS and FedEx tracking numbers, and you kind of start building this whole internal timeline with yourself. You're seeing like, okay, if I don't get my invoice from them by like 2, 3 p.m. in the afternoon, that means my stuff's probably not going out today, right? Which means I'm probably not going to get it tomorrow. So then I really hope it goes out tomorrow so I can get it the next day, right before, or depending on where you're at in the week, you may not get it till the next week, right? Same thing with like, when you're making your orders. Okay, if I don't get my order in by this time, so I can get my rep by this time, because he's probably on lunch around this time, he's probably not going to be able to get it released to the warehouse that same day, which means they're not going to really even get to see it in the fulfillment queue probably till tomorrow, and hopefully they can fulfill it in time to get it out by the end of that day, because if I don't get my scan by 7 p.m., it ain't making me, to me by the next day. So you start just neurotically tracking all this kind of information coming in. The other thing is because you're dealing, or at least I'm dealing with a lot of foreign language cards, right? Now there's international tracking that I got to keep aware of, right? So, okay, if I don't make the plane cut off by this time, I know it's not going to be shipping out today, which means it won't ship out until tomorrow, which means by the time it lands, right, depending on where it's coming from, most of the time it's either going to land in Oakland or it goes to Alaska first, right? If I don't make this plane by 4 o'clock a.m. my time, it's not going to be here by, 5, 7 p.m. this time to make the next leg down to Oakland, which means it's going to be another day delayed, right? So you're watching like all these scan times and just pulling your hair out, trying to figure out when everything is coming so you can plan all this stuff out, right? Then the other thing is Um, sometimes you've got CBP paperwork, right? Or it's going to get held up in customs clearance, right? That's happened a few times where all of a sudden you just get the little alert, you got a delay due to customs clearance, and you're like, oh my god, okay, so now I've got to deal with FedEx and try to get them what information they want, or it's in secondary being looked at, whatever it is. Um, and for whatever reason, a lot of times it seems to happen going into the weekend. So then nothing happens until the next week, and then you're trying to deal, but then they're dealing with this whole back queue of paperwork and information that came in over the weekend from everyone that got held up. So then you're just losing your mind even more because you're like, okay, well, where am I in the queue? And you don't really get any information. You get no answers. You just send it in, hope that they didn't lose it and they're actually going to get on top of it. And you're calling, you're updating, you're checking that tracking number, and just kind of losing your mind about it. So, nothing really destroys my peace faster when it comes to those shipments than seeing clearance delay pop up. You're like, ah, crap, right? And then you're trying to figure out, a lot of times, like I said, with the tariff issue, right? Okay, like was it the duties not calculated properly? Is this just an HS code wasn't put in properly? Is this just being checked? Is it over a certain threshold and somehow they didn't put the business name properly, so it's not being linked to my EIN? Like, what is going on here, right? So that happens every now and then. Then the other thing is the free shipping threshold brain rot that I have, right? So a lot of distributors are going to optimize around certain um, sorry, shipping thresholds, right, for dollar amount to get free shipping, right? And my brain will not let me give up a free shipping threshold, right? So I don't want to be like, okay, well, I need product A and B, so let me just buy those and get those. Well, I don't want to pay for shipping on just those, right? So I'm trying to avoid the shipping costs by hitting the minimum thresholds that they have, right? But then you're trying to like balance the urgency and release timing and shipping savings all together in your brain, right? So sometimes it's like, okay, well, I only needed these items, but it doesn't meet the threshold. So am I going to buy stuff that I don't really need? That's just going to sit there? Or do I want to buy something that I want to try out, but I don't know if it's going to do well or not, just to hit a free shipping threshold? Right? Or then sometimes too, it's like, okay, well, this item is in stock, but it's out of the Texas warehouse. So unless I hit a certain dollar amount total on the order, of which a certain amount of that order is coming from that particular warehouse, I won't get free shipping on that portion of the order, if that makes sense, right? So if all these items are coming from Fresno and these handful of items are coming from the Texas warehouse, okay, well, maybe I met the threshold for free shipping on everything coming out of Fresno, but I didn't hit a high enough amount out of the Texas warehouse, so I'm going to get hit with the shipping from that. So then I'm digging around. Okay, well, what do I need? Well, I need this. Let me open it up. Ah, okay, but that's also at Fresno, so it's going to prioritize that one first. So then I'm trying to find stuff that I need slash want slash maybe kind of think has some usefulness. Maybe that's coming from the Texas warehouse only, just to hit that threshold, so I don't have to pay shipping on that portion of the order. Right? I know, brain rot. Right? So there's that. So it comes to a point where sometimes you're not building your cart based on your logistics needs, but the psychology of free shipping thresholds. The other thing is shipping supply insanity, right? So sometimes you're packing, and you're like, all right, well, I'm getting low on this box here, right? And I'm gonna need more of these. So I order everything through Uline. Uline has 1 day shipping if you order before 6 p.m. Now you don't get to pick, well, just give me standard 3 day or 5 to 7 day. You don't pick, it's just if you order before 6 p.m., it's 1 day shipping. If your order comes in after 6 p.m., it will be the day after. That's just how it works. That's the option, right? There is no free shipping threshold. So if I buy, and you have to buy boxes like in a pack of 15 if they're big ones, or it's like 25 if they're not huge boxes. So if you buy, say, this size box and this size box, you got 50 boxes, but it's still going to cost you like 40, 50 bucks to ship it because it's 1 day shipping, right? And it comes out of, I think it's somewhere up in LA, something like that, right? I'm in San Diego. So it's like, well, okay, if I don't want to pay $50 for just 50 boxes, so I might as well add this box, this box. That one's probably going to run out by next week, so screw it. Add that one in too, right? And you're kind of adding these little things in. It's like, okay, well, now I'm at $70. Now it's half a pallet, you know, to ship entire pallets like 80. I might as well add in this, 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 and this now too, right? Just so it prevents me from having to spend 2 weeks from now another 70, 80 bucks. Every 2 weeks, if I can maybe order enough to last me 3, 4 weeks and spend 80 bucks. So, you kind of, and then the other thing is, okay, if I'm, depending on what day I'm ordering, if I'm not going to be home, then I'll have it sent to my business mailbox, which is at a UPS store, so I go pick it up from there. But then I'm going to have to, when I do go pick it up, a lot of times they'll call me, they'll be like, hey, so are you coming here pretty soon? Because, it's taking up like a huge corner of the store, right? So I got to get over there as soon as possible and somehow find some way to Jenga everything into my car. Luckily, I have an SUV, but still, it's really hard sometimes to fit it all in and get it back home. Or if I will be home the next day, then I can have them just ship it here. But heaven forbid that I forget to add on the liftgate option, because otherwise I'm going to be looking at the driver. He's going to be looking at me, and we're like, okay, what are we doing with this giant pallet? Because you don't got a loading dock, and you don't request liftgate service. So, well, am I going to be breaking this down and just jumping in and out, taking all these boxes out, assuming that he's even cool, just waiting there for me to do that, right? So it comes in sometimes where you're like, I needed some bubble wrap, and somehow ended up coordinating a pallet freight with liftgate service, right? Like it gets kind of insane sometimes. So there's that, right? The other thing that kind of turned me into logistics goblin is banking and payment time insanity. So when I'm paying my foreign suppliers, I pay via Wise, right? In the beginning, if you haven't done before, pay with PayPal, goods and services, to make sure that you're not getting scammed. Um, but there's fees. You have to pay extra fees when you're doing that, right? At this point, I've bought from them enough. I have trust in them. We've done enough business. I pay with Wise, right? If you don't know what Wise is, it's basically international wired service, basically, and there's no protection with that, right? If they scam you, hey, you got no recourse. So make sure it's with people you trust. Anyways, so I pay with Wise. Now, Wise has certain limits on it, right? That you can transfer at a time. If you go above those limits, then your wire may get some extra scrutiny. Well, when you're trying to pay an invoice, you don't have time to be like, okay, well, yeah, it's going to take 3 to 5 days for them to clear that payment, right? This is not going to work. So what I have to do is I have to load up my Wise account with cash, essentially, right? So you're transferring it from your credit card or your bank to Wise, so that way the funds are already there, ready to be sent out, rather than just sending it from some other third payment method. And then they're like, okay, well, this is above the threshold. We have to make sure it clears that payment method, right? But because the amount of cash you can throw in at a time also has a limit, because they want to make sure it's clearing whatever you're sending it from before they say, yes, okay, we're going to instantly let you have this much cash in your account. If I'm going to be ordering, say, some, Japanese or Korean stuff, and I know it's going to be approximately this much, if it's going to be above a certain threshold, I need to start thinking that, a couple days beforehand, so that way I can utilize those daily limits, get my cash transferred into Wise, so that way when I do have to pay that invoice, I have enough cash there ready to send over, right? Same thing with if I'm going to be picking up a collection, right? If I know I'm picking up a collection that's approximately worth this amount, depending on the payment method they want to accept, right? Zelle has daily limits, or if I'm using cash, it's like, okay, well, I got to make sure I get to the bank before the close of day so I can pull cash out to pay for this collection. Or if I got to get to the ATM machine, but again, there's daily limits, so I may, if I can't make it to the bank in time, I gotta start thinking, okay, well, I can only pull this much out from the ATM machine, so maybe I gotta, do it 2 days in a row or whatever it is, right? And then, if you're trying to pay credit cards or whatever, everything's linked to the account, right? So with Shopify, you have your payments coming in, they come at certain times. And if you transfer that to your bank account, if you don't do it by a certain time, you're not making the cutoff for that day. Your payments won't hit until the next day, right? Or in this case, right, like anything that I packed up on Thursday or Friday, like before 9 a.m., then I'll get my payout hopefully by the afternoon. But that payout won't be able to be transferred to your account and hit until next week because nothing happens over the weekend. So then, if you're trying to pay some invoices, pay your credit cards, if you're looking at your account, like, okay, well, I need that money to clear. That may not happen if you don't hit the certain time threshold for ACH transfers and all that kind of thing. So again, you're looking at everything in terms of cutoff times and dates, and this Monday's a holiday, so even though I did transfer money into my account Friday for everything that I packed up that day, it ain't gonna hit till Tuesday. But that doesn't mean that your credit card bills, if they fall in this time, your invoices that you have to pay or whatever, are gonna stop, right? Or like every day there's Google and Meta ads that are happening, and when you hit certain thresholds, it charges your card. Well, you may need to make a payment on your card so you don't hit your limit if it's going to hit over the weekend. Or sometimes I have a bunch of invoices from my distributors that I hit. Hey, can you get this released? Yeah, sure. And they got me before the weekend hit, but now those invoice payments are going to the card right going into the weekend. So I got to look at, okay, how much credit limit is available, because am I going to be able to clear all these ad payments over the weekend, or do I need to make a payment now? And is that going to, do I have a payout coming in time to cover this? It just starts getting all, wonky with the numbers, and you're watching because you have money here, but it could take a couple days to transfer out to there, but then this is due, and it needs to be paid from here, and this wise transfer has to come over 2 days, and again, logistics goblin, right? So your life sometimes starts revolving around whether money will settle before an invoice does. And this kind of, your business can only transform you from a collector into an operator because you're being a timing manager, right? And you're a freight coordinator, a tracking analysis, customs negotiator, and a neurotic logistics goblin. Yeah, so in conclusion, it's really just running a Pokemon business. It's basically just managing a series of increasingly weird timing problems. And people think that when you're in a Pokemon business, you're just selling cards and opening packs and whatnot. But half the time, you're just trying to survive the logistics of it. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope it was kind of entertaining. Gives you some of the behind the scenes stuff as to what kind of happens. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Do you want to see more content like this, more behind the scenes rather than the very heavy kind of operator business talk? Or if you have your own store, is some of this relatable? And what are some of the things that kind of drive you neurotic or turn you into a logistics goblin? With that being said, please check out Epic Loot Collectibles, buy my stuff, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.